Welcome back to the Dr. Misha podcast, where we try to summarize famous and classical books in less than 15 minutes. Today, we're diving deep into the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey.
Yeah, it's a classic for a reason.
Definitely.
People keep coming back to these ideas because they're about building character, not just quick fixes.
Exactly. And Covey's core idea is that you are what you habitually do.
Right.
It's not about intentions. It's about the actions you take day after day that truly define you.
Yeah, and what's interesting is how he connects this to the idea of paradigms.
Okay.
Our mental models of the world, like he uses the example of surgeons not washing their hands before germ theory.
So they were good at their craft, but their understanding was limited, which had huge consequences.
Exactly. Covey argues that we often have similar limiting paradigms that hold us back, but the good news is we can choose to shift them.
Okay, so how do we do that? Well, Covey gives us 7 habits to work on. The first one is be proactive.
This isn't just about taking initiative, it's about recognizing that we have a choice in how we respond to the world. Even Viktor Frankl, imprisoned in a concentration camp, found a way to exercise this freedom.
Wait, how's that even possible in such a horrific situation?
Well, Frankl realized that while he couldn't control his circumstances, he could control his thoughts and his attitude.
Okay.
He chose to focus on finding meaning, even in suffering, and that gave him a sense of inner freedom.
That's incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
So for our listeners, how can we start being more proactive in our daily lives?
One way is to simply change your language. Instead of saying, I can't try saying, what are my options? Instead of, that's just how I am, say, I can learn to be different. Small shifts in language can reflect a bigger shift in mindset.
That's a great tip. So moving on to habit 2, begin with the end in mind. This one sounds pretty deep.
It is. It's about having a clear vision for your life. Covey suggests imagining your own funeral.
Whoa.
What would you want people to say about you? What kind of legacy would you want to leave behind?
Whoa. That's a little intense, but it does make you think.
Yeah, it's a powerful way to clarify your values and goals from there. You can create a personal mission statement that guides your decisions and actions. Think of it as your compass, helping you stay on course, even when life gets chaotic.
So it's not just about achieving success. It's about living a life that's true to who you want to be.
Exactly. And that brings us to habit 3, which is all about putting that mission statement into action. Put first things first.
This one seems pretty self-explanatory, right? Prioritize the important stuff.
It is, but there's a nuance here. We often get caught up in what's urgent, not necessarily what's important. Think about it. Responding to emails might feel urgent, but is it truly more important than spending quality time with your family or working on a long-term project?
I see what you mean. It's easy to get lost in the whirlwind of daily tasks and lose sight of the bigger picture.
Exactly. Covey suggests focusing on those important but not necessarily urgent activities, things like planning a relationship, building, personal development. These are the things that move the needle in the long run.
So how do we actually do that? How do we make sure we're giving those important things the attention they deserve?
He recommends using a schedule to allocate time for different roles and responsibilities in your life. This way, you're consciously choosing how you spend your time, ensuring that you're not neglecting any key areas.
That makes sense. So we're not just reacting to whatever comes up. We're proactively designing our days around what matters most.
Exactly. And this ties in nicely with habit 4, Think Win-Win, which focuses on collaboration and finding solutions where everyone benefits.
Okay, tell me more about this one. How do we create these win-win situations?
It starts with a shift in mindset. Instead of seeing interactions as zero-sum games where someone has to lose, look for ways to create value for everyone involved. Think about negotiations, for example. Can you find a solution where both parties walk away feeling satisfied?
So it's about moving away from that competitive mindset and embracing a more collaborative approach.
Precisely. And this applies to all areas of life, from business deals to personal relationships. When you approach things with a win-win mentality, you build trust, strengthen relationships, and create more positive outcomes for everyone involved.
I love that it feels much more sustainable in the long run.
It is, and it leads us to the next habit, which is all about communication. Seek first to understand, then to be understood.
I'm guessing this one's about being a good listener.
It is, but it goes deeper than that. It's about truly empathizing with the other person, trying to see the world through their eyes before even thinking about expressing your own viewpoint.
So it's not just about waiting for your turn to speak. It's about really listening to understand, not just to respond.
Exactly. Covey uses the analogy of a lawyer preparing for a case. A good lawyer will first thoroughly understand the opposing side's arguments before crafting their own. It's about putting yourself in the other person's shoes.
That's such a great analogy. It really highlights the importance of stepping outside of our own perspective and trying to understand where the other person is coming from.
It does, and this requires active listening, paying attention to nonverbal cues, asking clarifying questions, and reflecting back what you heard to ensure understanding.
This habit seems like it could be a game changer for our relationships.
Absolutely, and it lays the foundation for the next habit, which is synergize.
Okay, this one sounds a bit more abstract. What does it mean to synergize?
Think of it like this. An arch is stronger than two pillars, standing alone. Synergy is about the power of cooperation, where the combined effort creates something greater than the sum of its parts. It's about recognizing that everyone has unique strengths and perspectives to contribute.
So it's not just about working together, it's about achieving something truly exceptional through that collaboration.
Exactly. And effective synergy relies heavily on the previous habits we discussed, particularly communication and understanding. When you have that foundation of trust and open communication, you can tap into the collective wisdom and creativity of the group.
So it's not just about brainstorming together, it's about creating an environment where those ideas can truly flourish and lead to something groundbreaking.
Exactly. And that brings us to the final habit, sharpen the saw, which is all about self-renewal.
Okay, this one sounds intriguing. Tell me more.
Well, Covey uses the analogy of a man trying to saw a log with a dull saw. He's exhausted, making little progress.
Okay.
Someone suggests he sharpen the saw, but he says he's too busy sawing.
Oh, I've totally been there, so caught up in the doing that I forget to take care of myself.
Yeah, it's a common trap, but sharpening the saw means taking time for yourself across 4 dimensions: physical, mental, spiritual, and social.
So it's not just about getting enough sleep. It's about nurturing all aspects of our well-being.
Precisely. Physical renewal might involve exercise and healthy eating. Mental renewal could be reading, learning new skills, or simply engaging in activities that challenge your mind. Spiritual renewal could involve meditation, spending time in nature, or connecting with something larger than yourself. And social renewal is about nurturing your relationships with loved ones and building meaningful connections.
This habit feels like the foundation for everything else if we're not taking care of ourselves. How can we possibly be effective in any other area of life?
Exactly. It's about investing in yourself so you can show up as your best self in all aspects of your life.
Wow, we've covered a lot of ground today. These 7 habits are so interconnected, they really build upon each other.
Yeah, and that's what makes Covey's framework so powerful. It's not about mastering one habit in isolation. It's about integrating all 7 into your life to create a holistic approach to personal growth.
It feels like a journey, not a destination.
Absolutely. And remember, it's not about perfection, it's about progress. Start with one habit that resonates with you. Focus on consistency and celebrate those small wins along the way. Over time, those small changes will compound into something truly remarkable.
This deep dive has been incredibly insightful. I feel like I have a renewed sense of clarity and direction.
I'm glad to hear that. And remember, these habits are applicable to everyone regardless of their background or profession, whether you're a student, a CEO, or a stay-at-home parent. These principles can help you live a more fulfilling and effective life.
So if our listeners could take away just one key message from this deep dive, what would you say it is?
I think it's this: we are not simply products of our circumstances. We have the power to choose to change and to shape our own destiny. By adopting these 7 habits, we can become architects of our own lives, building a future that aligns with our deepest values and aspirations.
That's beautifully said, and it reminds me of a quote from the book that really resonated with me. The key is not to prioritize what's on your schedule, but to schedule your priorities.
That's a powerful one. It highlights the importance of aligning our actions with our values and goals. It's easy to get swept away by the demands of daily life, but Covey reminds us that we have the power to choose what truly matters and to make time for those priorities.
This deep dive has been a wonderful reminder of that. So as we wrap up, I'm curious, what's one question our listeners could ponder as they reflect on these 7 habits?
How about this? Think about a current challenge you're facing, whether it's in your personal life at work or in a relationship. How might focusing on one of these 7 habits change your approach to that challenge?
That's a great question. It encourages our listeners to not just passively absorb this knowledge, but to actively apply it to their own lives.
Exactly, because knowledge is only truly valuable when it's understood and put into action.
Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the 7 habits of highly effective people. It's been a pleasure exploring these timeless principles with you and our listeners.
It has, and I hope it sparks some self-reflection and a desire to implement these principles into our daily lives.
Remember, it's not about perfection. It's about progress. Start with one habit, focus on consistency, and celebrate those small victories along the way.
And don't be afraid to revisit these habits regularly. They offer valuable guidance no matter where you are on your personal development journey.
A huge thank you to everyone for joining us on the Dr. Misha podcast today. We hope you found this episode insightful and inspiring.
Please share this episode among your friends and family to spread the knowledge.
And let me know in the comments what books you were interested in for future summaries.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep striving to become the best versions of yourselves.
Yeah, it really feels like Covey gave us a roadmap, not just for success, but for a life lived with purpose.
Yeah, and what's great is that it's a journey anyone can embark on. You don't need special skills or a certain background to start applying these habits.
Right. It's about taking ownership of your choices and actions no matter where you're starting from.
Exactly. And that's what makes this book so enduringly popular. It's a message of hope and empowerment.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, it's time for us to wrap up this deep dive into the 7 habits of highly effective people.
It's been a pleasure unpacking these powerful ideas with you and our listeners.
A huge thank you to everyone for joining us on the Dr. Misha podcast today. We hope you found this episode insightful and inspiring.
Please share this episode among your friends and family to spread the knowledge.
And let me know in the comments what books you are interested in for future summaries.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep striving to become the best version